are shut. In Delhi, Ghaziabad, Noida, Gurugram,
across
government and
to
private
Delhi's
schools are
air
shut.
pollution,
There
the
have
air
been
quality
advisories
in the
given
national
out by
capital
government
region has
officials
worsened on
to stay
Wednesday.
indoors,
As
work
of 3
from
p.m., the air
home
quality
as
in
much
Delhi's
as
civil
possible.
lines area.
Out of the 10 cities with the worst air quality across the globe in 2019, 6 were in India. A major contributor to these pollution levels are the personal and commercial vehicles that roam the city streets. Similar to most metropolitans around the world, Delhi adds about 1400 cars to its near 11 million pre-existing ones every single day. Unlike most modern metros, however, essentially all of these cars, including the new additions, run on fossil fuels. That being said, there are always outliers.
This is Rita Nahata and I've been driving an electric car for about 18 years.
Rita is one of the earliest adopters of EVs in India.
Whenever you have parked the car, when you come back, you would find 10, 12 people standing around the car wanting to know what is this? It's an electric car, is it available in India? And then what the dealers did was that anybody who would approach the dealers that we want to buy an electric car would recommend, share with them our numbers. We were a small community of about 25 electric car owners in Delhi, and they would say that you can get in touch with these people and you can ask them about their experience of driving an electric car. So initially we were like unofficial brand ambassadors of electric cars, and people would call us and say, okay, we understand, we got your number from the dealer, you are driving an electric car, what is your experience? And then they would say, oh, it's too small, the range is too less.
EV is certainly much superior than IC engine. First of all, the comfort in driving. For the EV, you don't have to change the clutch every time for the manual, the way you do for the IC manual engine. It's very easy to drive. Second is, it is very, very less polluting, almost nil pollution, I would say. And the sound pollution is negligible. And the running parts are so less, the maintenance cost is hardly anything.
While many swear by the technical superiority of EVs, the technology is not without its criticism, with many arguing that the battery manufacturing, charging, and disposal processes are effectively negating all claimed ecological benefits.
It is not exactly that all EV sources, power sources are from the coal-fired or coal-based power plants, number one. Number two, even if they are from the coal-based power plant, as you know, the efficiency of smaller engines is much lower, produce much pollution than the bigger engines. So this is a much bigger production setup where the pollution levels percentages will be much lower, number one. Number two, those production centers are far away from the cities.
I'm not saying it does not have a carbon footprint. It's not completely green, 100% green, but it is greener, it is better, and it doesn't pollute as much. I'm driving from the age of 18 and I'm 65 now, so each and every car that I owned is still being used by the owners who bought them.
Despite several claimed benefits for EVs, internal combustion vehicles continue to outsell them by the thousands for many reasons.
India is a very cost-sensitive market. Second, I would say the EV charging setups. Third, I would say is the range anxiety. Cost is certainly coming down year by year as the competition increases, as the technology matures, and we have to see the total cost, because the operational cost of EV is much lower, somewhere around 80 paise a kilometer compared to 5 or 6 rupees a kilometer in the conventional.
Adding to this list of issues are questionable government policies around EVs.
The incentives are peanuts compared to the initial cost because the batteries are very expensive. Batteries are being imported and there's full duty on the batteries. The government has a very funny policy. If you use more electricity, you pay more for the electricity. It's the only country in the world where it happens. And we had tried, a group of us had tried writing to MCD and NDMC and BSES that if those who have electric cars should be allowed to have one separate meter for charging their electric cars. And then that meter, they should charge the minimum per unit basis. But that they refused. It was about 5 years back. So the government will have to think about it, because when we go to a commercial charging station, there also one has to pay about 7 rupee 50 paisa per unit. So on one hand, they say they want to clean the cities of air pollution, and they want more and more people to use electric cars. And then on the other hand, you don't want them to have the charging facility at a reasonable rate.
Despite all of this, the prospect of mainstream adoption of EVs continues to be optimistic.
It's not that people who are hesitant of buying electric. There are people who wait for things to get smooth and to get mainstream till they start using it. I'll give you an example. My mother used to cook on kerosene stove. When we came to Delhi in 1967, the LPG had just been introduced. What is now cooking gas, without which nobody cooks nowadays. And people were hesitant in buying those LPG cylinders and LPG stoves. And there was a rumor that if you eat food, and especially chapatis cooked on gas fuel, on the gas burner, then you will get gastric problems. So gas cylinders became popular much later, in the 70s. And in the 70s, all of a sudden, everybody wanted gas cylinders. Oh, this is so cheap, this is so clean, this is so good. So it is just a question of a mindset. I don't think there is anything else. And always there are leaders and there are followers.
While EVs might not be the be-all end-all solution to India's pollution problems, it is quite apparent that they are a step in the right direction, one that has been long overdue.